The next suit is the sword suit. And here for the ace I chose the raven, which represents the thoughts and communication that the ravens were used for. So I thought this would be a fitting symbol for the Ace of Swords. The Two of Swords is a choice, and for that I chose Brienne and Jaime, because here this fight scene represents very much what choices are about. Sometimes you are fighting against each other, but when another enemy comes, you stand together and you start fighting against that. And this change of perspectives, what you choose to fight for and what you choose to fight against, are very symbolic for the Two of Swords. So that's why I chose this picture. The Three of Swords is the heartbreak card. And even though I don't really agree with the depiction that is used in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, or maybe what meaning has been associated with that card for many decades, here I chose to honor that tradition and to represent the Three of Swords with heartbreak and loss. The Three of Swords to me is more about your thoughts create your heartache, but here I just wanted to honor the original tradition and depiction of the Three of Swords. And when Jaime loses his daughter after a brief reunion, when he was finally able to acknowledge her as his daughter and then immediately after that he loses her, this is such a profound moment of loss that I thought this would be honored in this depiction of the Three of Swords. The Five of Swords is rest, is taking time out in between battles, and I chose this picture for that representation when Mira is sitting outside of the cave. She's waiting, she doesn't know what her purpose is and where she's going to go on, how she's going to continue. She is waiting, she is resting, she is taking time out from the world, she is just with her thoughts. Slowly she's getting restless to the point where she is ready to go back into the world and to start fighting again. And that's how we get to the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords to me is one of the most violent energies. The conflict here is to draw blood. In the traditional depiction of the Five of Swords, I always feel such a conflict that cannot be resolved peacefully. This challenge is not something that we are happy to go through. We are fighting with all of our strength, and for that depiction I chose the battle that occurred in Marine in the fighting pit. The Six of Swords shows someone leaving a situation. They are traveling on a boat, and for that I chose this photo of Tyrion and Jorah Mormont. They are leaving Westeros behind. They are going towards a future that they don't know much of. They know there are dangers there, but nevertheless they are willing to take the journey and they are moving away. And I chose this depiction because in the Six of Swords we usually see someone taking someone else on this journey, and I wanted to keep that representation for this card also. The Seven of Swords is typically associated with treachery and sneakiness and betrayal. Who else would be better for that card than the two masterminds, Roose Bolton and Peter Baelish, as they are making their plans and planning the downfall of others behind the scenes secretly. This is something that immediately comes to mind when I look at this picture. Again, my understanding of the Seven of Swords is a little bit different from the traditional meaning or understanding that I see in many tarot books, but this is what I chose to honor the original depiction. This card shows more my kind of understanding of the Seven of Swords. Yes, sometimes you need to work behind the scenes, but that does not necessarily mean that you have evil intentions. And Varys is sometimes very secretive, and he works behind the scenes most of the time. We don't see the strings that he is pulling, but I am still not convinced that he is not acting for a good cause. So for that reason, I actually have 2 cards for the Seven of Swords. The Eight of Swords in the traditional deck represents someone being tied down, but in that meaning, you are tied down by your own thoughts and you have the power to get out of it. When Dany was captured by the Dothraki, she understood that she still had the power to free herself. She just needed to find the way how to do it. And she did it in the end. So I chose this representation for that card. The Nine of Swords is the Nightmare card. Who would be a better nightmare than Ramsay Bolton? Here he seems so peaceful and loving, but we all know that this is just a ruse and he is your worst nightmare. That's why he was picked, just to get one chance to be part of this deck. That's why I chose him. Because he was such a major player in the Game of Thrones series, I gave him this one card to be represented in my deck. So that's my Nine of Swords. And the Ten of Swords is the card of ultimate betrayal. The one that we never thought would betray us. And it breaks our heart. This picture shows that feeling, that betrayal of someone that we loved, that we trusted, that we cared for. So this was my suit of swords. And as you could see, I went very much with the traditional depiction of the Rider-Waite-Smith system. That was my original intention at the beginning of 2017. Even though now I read the cards somewhat differently, I wanted this deck to represent that set of images, and especially because I am working with scenes from a TV series, that seemed the best way to go. So these were the cards from my suit of swords. And finally, my suit of pentacles. The pentacles represent the more earthly, financial, practical aspects of life. Everything that you can actually touch and hold. For the ace, I chose this lion medallion, which looks like a coin, and also represents the wealth and power of the Lannisters. My Two of Pentacles is having balance of resources, and for that Osha as a wildling seemed a perfect representation. She knows how to live on what nature provides. She understands that some days you have more and some days you have less, and how you maintain a balance that you will always have enough to survive, and how you can find the resources to be able to survive every day. For this balance in the material world, this balance with nature, I chose Osha. The Three of Pentacles working together is my 3 guys. It's Tyrion, Bronn, and Podrick Payne. They each bring different things to the table, and they each have their own strengths, and together they are a team who work sometimes in competition, sometimes in cooperation, but nevertheless they keep working together. Also, I like the orangey yellowy tones that are representative of a pentacle suit. My Four of Pentacles, sometimes called the miser card, when the hound robs the farmer. And here we see his mercenary side, his actions are not driven by evil. He understands that the strong survives. The Hound understands that we live in a material world. The Five of Pentacles depiction. Again, I went with the visual representation that can be seen in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, when two people in front of a church window stay together in a hostile environment. They feel there isn't much hope, there is lack of resources, there is lack of support, but they are still together and they are still there for each other. So together they can get through this difficult time. This picture had a similar feel to that representation. The Six of Pentacles is giving and receiving, and I chose this card when Dario Naharis gives Daenerys the flowers, because this seems like a simple act of chivalry, simple gift between a man and woman, but actually it's so much more. And when he explains, you understand that there is so much more to this gift, and it can help you. You can benefit from these gifts much more than you originally thought, when you just thought that it was an empty gesture. So this is my representation for the Six of Pentacles. The Seven of Pentacles is about waiting, is about cultivating, and here Dany with her dragon eggs, she is before the eggs hatched, and she waited a long time for her dragons to grow and for her to be able to conquer the world and to take back Westeros, that she feels is her birthright. So this card represents the waiting and cultivating of your resources, of what you have, to be able to reach higher goals in the future. My Eight of Pentacles is all about work and practice. And here we see Arya when she starts off training in sword fight with Syrio Forel. And they work hard, they work relentlessly, and they are committed to mastering what they are doing. So I think this is a great depiction for the Eight of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles, the wealthy lady with the bird, I think is represented perfectly by Marjorie Tyrell. She has, because of her family, all the material resources available. She is wealthy, she has no material cares in this world. And I liked her character in the series, so I wanted to give her another chance to be part of this deck. And that's why I chose her as the representation of the Nine of Pentacles. And finally, my Ten of Pentacles, the financial success, the stability, is represented by Tywin Lannister. He built an empire and he was master of that empire. He is my representation of the Ten of Pentacles. This was my suit of Pentacles, and I am quite happy with the photos that I was able to find for these cards. These were the minors, and I hope you enjoyed the videos. I look forward to having your feedback. Please let me know what you think about these